that Team Liquid would have been the best team at the tournament. Disappointing end. I can't believe they threw TSM out there instead of. But I kind of get the swinging for the fences with it and hoping you get something there. But then the bad would have been for me TSM. TSM looked completely outclassed at the event. I think they finished 1-4. And although they stole a victory
against Fnatic.
Against Fnatic, they went 0-2 against Origin, I believe, and it was just messy from the beginning. So I was not impressed with TSM at all. But even coming into the event, I know when we spoke on the last show, I thought TSM was the weakest team there overall. They did not look impressive in the last few weeks coming together, heading up into the event, and that pretty much showed on the stage. So that was bad. And the ugly was Cloud9, but I'm going to give them half of a pass because they were pretty much playing a man down. They had Blabber sub in for a couple of the games for Sneaky. So
when you put
not
Blabber
a
at AD carry, it's
we'll give it a wash on Cloud9, but it was ugly in the games that they played. So
yeah, I mean for me, the thing is TSM just can't seem to get over that international whatever mountain, maybe not even a hill at this point. And they had looked really not strong going in, but neither did anybody else. The best team in NA up to that point, I think it's still been Optic potentially, at least record wise. And TL had looked like they'd finally started putting it back together. C9 had their random losses that they shouldn't have had, and like you said, I think seeing TL play as well as they did, because after their first game, I was like, dude, this is just real bad. Like I was worried that Liquid
Day
Fnatic
one
game
was rough.
Yeah, they threw that game really hard, and I was like, man, this is gonna be that was our chance. That was our chance to get a win right there, and they threw it away. And I think that I think seeing them beat Origin and G2 in day two uplifted me. I was feeling a lot better about it, but then yeah, throwing out TSM, like you said, trying to go for the home run there. I mean, I think the problem is they would have thrown out Cloud9,
Yeah,
but
there's no good option behind
yeah,
Team Liquid.
because you didn't want to throw out Team Liquid there and waste your last game
I
for
was
them.
actually
But
surprised that they threw out TL in game 3 rather than game 2. Because theoretically, if you're going to roll back Team Liquid for a game 4 or a game 5, you would like them to have a break in between the games, right?
yeah,
So understanding that they're going into the elimination stage or the best of 5 stage, that Team Liquid had looked like your strongest team. I don't know why you don't throw them too, but that's just game strategy.
well, I think
And to be fair, Europe, the matchups would have been the same thing because Europe would have thrown out G2 and number 2 rather than Origin versus TSM.
yeah, I think it came down to this in my opinion. I think they were banking on TSM stealing a win or C9, one of the two of them, and then TL getting a win, at least one. And TL got their win, which was great. But then, Cloud9 just couldn't get it done. No surprise. Again, when you have to play Blabber at 80 carry, like what else do you expect? I mean, he played Nidalee for God's sakes. Like what is he supposed to do with that? So, I think again, disappointment. I think describes it. But hopefully, and we saw it already in the week coming back into the LCS. The teams learned from it. Like TSM played a Gragas Yasuo bot. It didn't look good, but to me that showed that they were willing to improve and not stick to their ways. As somebody who's been an avid fan of TSM, I try to be objective with them. But one of the things that I've noticed about them for a long time is their almost reluctancy and almost just truly stubbornness of trying to go with the meta. Like they always were, we're going to stick to our style and it doesn't matter. We're going to play for late game, whatever, right? Like that's what they're known for. They're known for being passive. I think it was good to see them come back. It was good to see Team Liquid come back and play as well as they did. Again, TSM had their loss against CLG. Cloud9 did go 2-0, including beating Liquid with a sub, which we'll get to here potentially in a minute. But I guess the next part of this is: do you feel like Rift Rivals was good for NA? Do you think that it gave them enough of a jolt potentially for Worlds?
I don't. I think it's good for NA just in the fact that it's a different style than they're used to playing against, right? It is a more aggressive, flexible, dynamic style, which I mean, Team Liquid showed that they can handle a bit, but for the other teams, it's not something that they play against, or that if they do play against, it's not done very well
Mm-hmm.
on a regular basis, right? I think that losing is always a very important thing because I think your losses are what you can learn the most from.
Absolutely.
So yeah, and it's for fun tournament, it's whatever, right? But I definitely think in the long run, having the ability to play against Europe, Europe is the perfect companion for North American teams to get more international experience against.
Yeah, and I mean, right now it's arguably the best region in the world. At least their top two teams.
I still believe China is the best region in the world. You
I
can
think
say
so too.
that G2 is doing well, but overall, I think the strength of the Chinese region and
From top to
until
bottom, yes.
yes is the strongest region in the world. Invictus just beat SKT twice at Rift Rivals, so it's to me they're still the best. And I know MSI G2 got away, but G2 didn't play Invictus.
Mm-hmm.
Team Liquid stole a series from Invictus, and as the reigning world champions, I still think they're probably favored to win
Oh, absolutely.
the world championship again. So it is what it is. I mean, I definitely think Europe is one of the stronger regions. G2, you would say, is easily a top 4 team in the world. Top 3 team right now. But I'm not ready to quit on the Chinese scene being the strongest scene just yet.
I'm not willing to do that either, but I do think that comparatively right now, I would still put Fnatic probably in the top 5 or 6 teams in the world right now. And I know Rift Rivals wasn't what it needs to be, and we're gonna find out a lot more tomorrow, right? Because the LEC's back. We'll find out if Fnatic's win over G2 actually mattered or not. But I do think G2 and Fnatic are two of the top 6 teams, 5 teams in the world right now, with Invictus, one of the LCK teams. I don't even know which one at this point. It's been a pretty hectic scene over there, it seems like, for the last couple weeks. And then, I would throw TL up there too. So for me, it would be in that somewhere in that range, like Invictus, an LCK team, G2, TL, and Fnatic. Like those would probably be my 5. I know it's bad not to throw an LCK team in there, but no matter what, whichever one team that ends up winning this for and being the 1 seed, that will end up being that team essentially for me.
I think that Team Liquid, and you're going to say, oh, well, they're not even that dominant domestically. They just lost to Cloud9 again, right? Like, I understand all of that. But I think when it comes to international play, Team Liquid is the best team, or at least set up the best for success right now out of all the North American teams.
Oh,
They're able
no doubt.
to hold off from behind or, slightly behind. They don't tend to get rolled over. And they play a more they pick their spots, right?
Mm-hmm.
You saw that when G2 went head to head with them and actually, didn't screw around and picked a realistic composition. G2 did have small gold leads at points in that game, but it didn't really amount to much. Team Liquid made the smart decisions. Impact was once again a standout performer, for being criticized so heavily entering MSIs, being, the weak link on this mega roster that Team Liquid had. Impact's been like their best international player.
Oh, absolutely.
And he did it once again at Rift Rivals. So
Yeah.
yeah, Rift Rivals, bad for NA, good for EU. And I'm excited for the World Championships. I think it'll be fun.
Dude, yeah, Worlds is going to be great. I wish it was in a time at a time where I wouldn't be sleep deprived for a multitude of days, but it is what it is. We're going to move on, and we're going to talk about our player of the week from the last week of the LCS. We're going to skip over most of the games because, to be honest, they are what they are, but there were some pretty standout players from this last week, and there's some other things we want to get to, and we'll for those of you who might be worried, we're going to get to these teams. It's just going to be in a very different way. So, for you, Chris, who was your favorite, or not favorites? Who was your standout player of the week?
So my standout player for the week is probably going to be a surprise because it's not somebody that would probably immediately come to mind, but I'm going to go with Santorin.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
and the reason I'm going with Santorin is FlyQuest had a 2-0 week this week for the
Mm-hmm.
first time. It had one win coming into the week, and Santorin's Rek'Sai was a big reason for that. In both of the games, he kind of popped off.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when they are doing well, like they did in the spring split, Santorin is playing well. And when they're not, he's not. So he's going to be my player of the week for this week, just because I think he really emerged this week. He had a great week to bring FlyQuest back, and I think FlyQuest. And we talked about this before Rift Rivals with Nick. FlyQuest is a team that I don't think is going to stay down for the last few weeks of the
Mm-mm.
season. A lot of people predicted them as kind of that fourth team heading into the season, and I still think that they can be there. They have the talent, they have the experience. They're one of the more veteran rosters. I mean, outside of Viper, but yeah, I definitely think that FlyQuest has the ability to not only just make a playoff spot, but make some noise in the playoffs. So
Yeah.
Santorin's going to be my player of the week. What are you feeling for player of the week?
Yeah, I mean, love the Santorin pick, by the way. I've been very high on him for a long time, and he's been letting me down for a couple weeks, so I was glad to see him do it. I'm gonna cheat just a tiny bit. I have two people. I want to give the first one to Sven Skaren because not only did he play that Lee Sin in the Sunday game against Clutch really well, but he also made it so that Como or Kumo, right? Is it Kumo? Kumo, I
Yeah,
think. Yeah. He not only had a good week, but he was able to in that Team Liquid game give Kumo the time he needed without feeling the pressure from the enemy jungle and from everywhere else because Svenskeren was putting so much pressure on the rest of the map. So it was really good for them, and I think it was a major reason for why they went 2-0 this week. But my second one, and I think I'd be remiss not, and I think we would be remiss not to put somebody from CLG out there as well, is good old Bio Daddy. I think he has really flipped the switch for this summer split so far, and I think he's been a major cog in the wheel for why CLG have been doing as well as they have been. Stixay looks not back to where he was when they won their championship, but like he looks a lot stronger than he has in a while, and I think that's a lot to do with Biofrost. Obviously, Wiggly can be up there, but I think Biofrost had a better week of the two of them.
Biofrost is an interesting character because at times he just disappears, but then
Mm-hmm.
he'll remind you with that big play, that massive engage that wins the game, right? And then he kind of fades back into the shadows, and then there he is again. There's Biofrost, the TSM one we knew, and no, I think Biofrost definitely is a good pick too. I don't think he gets a lot of credit on the team with everything that's
Yeah.
been going on with CLG. I think he flies under the radar a little bit, but yes, you did cheat by picking two of them, but
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
I can't really argue against any of them. So,
It was
um,
hard because the problem is like Sven Skaren I think has gotten so much flack for so long, right? Even getting replaced, and the C9 of 2019 I think has been vastly improved because they've solidified their jungler. And Blabber's a good jungler. It's just that when they decided to go Svenskeren for Worlds, I mean, that changed that entire team. And I still think he gets a lot of flack for how well he plays in most games. There are games where he will throw, there's no doubt, or he'll miss a smite. But, like, when he has a good week, I feel like he deserves the credit. And then, like you said, for Biofrost was as consistent as we've seen him in a really long time this week. I think he died two times this week, including none in the second game. So like,
right.
it was good to see him. We're gonna move on now to our risers and our fallers, and there are even our first week back in the LCS since Rift Rivals. There are some very clear risers and fallers. I think we've still got plenty of time. We're only 15 minutes in, so I would like to get for you to give me two,
Okay.
one of each. Then I'll do one of each. Then you do one. Then I'll do one. So let's start with your
Cool.
riser. Who's your first riser?
I mean, it's an obvious one. It's CLG.
Mm-hmm.
CLG have announced themselves as a contender with this past week. They had a victory over TSM, which was like their first victory over them in like 3 years. So it was a
Yeah.
very big moment for them. And then, on top of that, of course, they beat Clutch. But to me, CLG is the biggest riser. We didn't really know where to place them or what to think of them heading into this week.
Yeah.
They're still kind of a wild card. They look like they had some, they were growing as a team, but then there were also moments that you're like, I'm not really sure about this. Ruin was kind of one. To me, Ruin is a very polarizing player because there's some games you're like, man, that guy's really good, and then there's other games that you're like, I'm not too sure about this guy. So I think that CLG is definitely going to be my first riser of the week. I think a lot of people probably have them as a top 3 team right now after their
hmm
victory over TSM because it wasn't just a victory, that was convincing. Like that
Very,
was, yeah,
very.
that was a solid victory. That was a statement victory for them. So that's going to be my riser
What
for
about
the
your
week.
faller? What about your
My
faller?
my faller is going to be Clutch Gaming. Um, Kind of in tandem as they did play each other. Clutch is, for me, I always struggle with Clutch Gaming because I've looked at their roster over and over and over again, and I'm like, this just feels like it has enough talent to work.
hmm
And it feels like I have Lyra and Huni, and Demonte can hold his own or should be able to hold his own. And even before when they had Piglet, I was like, man, this is a roster that can do some damage, right? And they just can't put it together. No matter what it is, they can't seem to figure it out. Um, and I know they actually just let go of their head coach here in the
Yeah,
past weeks.
Miscrags, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he.
S-
I'm surprised though, because I don't think his drafts have been their problem. I'm gonna be
well,
totally frank. I don't think their drafts or any of the prep have been the problem. I think Lyra and Hooney are the problem. I think they're absolutely the problems on this team because I think Hooney demands way too much attention, and in a meta where the top lane is not needed for attention in the sense for the rest of the team, like you got to be able to carry on your own, right? And he'll have those games occasionally with Rumble, but like then he'll have games where he demands a lot of resources, and Lyra just gives it to him. And then I think Lyra is the most, I don't know, confusing player for me because I think he disappears more than anybody in the jungle. And when then he reappears sometimes, and it's 50-50 because he'll reappear and he'll be great or he'll be absolutely horrible. So it's like 75% of the time he's just not good.
I think the game has changed in a way that Lyra hasn't been able to adapt
Mm,
successfully. Like Lyra was a player that when I thought of Lyra, I'm like, this guy's gonna start taking your jungle. He's just gonna choke you out of the game,
hmm
and he's just gonna dominate you. It's an aggressive, dominating play style, and he just doesn't do. I mean, one, it's harder to do that now. Than it was in the past. Teams are getting better. People learn priority and things like it's that's part of it, right? But I just don't feel like he's been able to adapt in a way that other junglers have. So because Lyra is arguably one of the on terms of raw talent, Lyra should be near the top of junglers in the LCS. But to your point, it's just not there.
hmm
And to me, that's because he's always been a snowballing type jungler where he gets a lead, he builds that lead, and that's how he wins the game. But he's not been able to get those early leads anymore, and he's just not the same player.
No, I would agree. I think when it comes to Lyra, I think he is still used to when he was back on Envy, where like you said, not only could he choke, but like he choked with vision. And I think the vision game has changed so much in the last 2-3 years that he just doesn't maybe even understand it almost as bad as that sounds. Like it feels like he'll place a ward sometimes and I'll be like, you don't even need it. Like where does that actually help you? Um, and so I think for me he's been a huge disappointment. I don't know. I mean, Clutch is definitely on there. I'll do mine real quick. My one of my risers was going to be CLG anyway, so I won't spend too much more time on them. I think Wiggly's been the difference for them, for me personally. I think Wiggly I had Wiggly at the very bottom of my jungler rankings coming into the season. I thought Wiggly didn't even deserve a spot on the roster. I knew he was really intelligent, but it just didn't look like he could handle it. Like it just really didn't look like he could handle it. And then he's been just phenomenal. I mean, there are people talking about him for MVP right now, and that to me is just a testament to how smart he is and how much time he's clearly put in. I think Ruin has also been a surprise because I was a really I pooped on
I
Ruin
was
pretty
super
hard.
skeptical of
Yeah,
that when I especially after the way MSI went. I'm like, this is the guy you're bringing in to this is
yeah.
your top lane answer. Yeah,
There were
but
so many. Like they could have just gone and gotten Flame. I thought they were going to go get
right.
Flame. I was like, dude, just go get Flame, and you guys are a way better team. But they clearly saw something in him that I guess we didn't. I remember him from his time at Giants as well, and I was like, dude, this guy's just super underwhelming. Like he was on one of the, if not the worst, one of the worst teams in the LEC, and he wasn't even good there. So why is he going to be good in the LCS? I thought truly I was like he's going to bring the talent level of the LEC down. Like CLG, I honestly predicted them to finish like eighth,
I
because
didn't see CLG anywhere near
no.
elite status.
And the thing is whether or not they can continue it. Because if they can't, then yeah, this great starts for nothing. And we'll see if people start to adapt. Um, my faller is 100 Thieves. I know they had a rough week, but like, and everybody's really excited. Yeah, this team is coming out. They won those 3 games in a row. I still think Afromu is a problem. I'm gonna be honest. I just I don't really see the same player that I saw before. I don't see the fire there from him. I still think that Amazing has some issues, and I just don't think. I don't know. I know a lot of people wanted to believe in them. I know they won some games, but I still see them as one of the bottom 2 teams. Like they just, I don't know. Between their roster changes, and I think that helped. But like at the same time, one of the best top laners in the LCS is playing on Academy right now, and the fact that you're having to make these changes and you can't even play who I would even say is their best player in general. Like I just don't see how they're gonna get that much better. Like I don't.
I 100% agree with you. To me, the someday thing is crazy. Like I wrote an article about this when they hadn't won. It was like 0-4,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, how do you fix them, right? And my whole argument was based on the fact that you really need to stop putting someday in even or poor matchups, and
Mm-hmm.
instead give him the ability to carry the game for you. He's
Yep.
your best player, right? Like that was my whole thing. Like he is
Yeah.
your best player.
I
Like
agree.
play around your best player. If you don't know what else to do, let your stars be stars for you.
Couldn't agree
And
more.
instead of that, you took him off your main roster. You brought in Ryu, who's underwhelming at best. Like I
It's a nice
understand
way to
that
put it.
like there's a tactical advantage, and he's basically a coach out there on the Rift, right? Like I get all of that, but I'm never going out there and then saying like, man, Ryu's gonna win his lane today. This is the one. Like this, I never expect him to win lane ever. And in fact, I'm just hoping he doesn't lose it too bad. Like
And what do you need another coach out there for? You've got
right,
Amazing, who's got a great mind. You've got Aframu, who should be one of the most cerebral players in the game. And you've got Bang, who's already uber intelligent. They don't need a
uh,
coach, they need players.
Amazing's actually been surprisingly good for as bad as 100 Thieves has been. Amazing has been a solid player, um, even statistically and just in the way that viewing it from the Rift, right? Like he's been a good player for them. It's just everybody around him is not.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I thought the 3 victory streak was kind of a house of cards, right? Like I didn't really put too much stock into that. Yeah, you won some games, but I wasn't convinced heading into this week, and I showed, right? I still think 100 Thieves is probably, especially with this roster, they're a bottom 3 team at best.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
there's nothing about this roster that impresses you. You don't. There's nowhere you can say, man, that's going to be our key to victory right there. They keep trying to put like Fate God in these like carry us to victory scenarios, and you've got the wrong guy up there, right? Like that's fake God is not someday. He's just not. He's a good player, but it's not. I don't expect him to take over a game in the way that I've seen someday take over games in the past.
Absolutely.
So
And I mean, are you
I
gonna tell me?
100%.
Oh, sorry,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
You continue yours.
I was I was gonna say I 100% agree with 100 Thieves being a faller for this week.
Yeah, and I mean, are you gonna tell me that there's not some other kid mid laner out there that you can go find? I mean, there's a plethora of them in the academy. Like, just grab one. Just grab one.
But
Go
were
with
they the
that.
top 2 mid laner in the world 5 years ago? I doubt it. Did they
My,
get fakered by?
yeah. I mean, listen. Here's the deal. We've probably talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but my last thing is Bang is good. Someday is good. Amazing's been fine. I still think the problem is with Afremu, and he is a great player. Don't get me wrong, but he's not been playing like it, and I think he brings the team down. I think he brings the team down mentally. I think he brings the team down with his play, and I think that he just needs to change the scenery. I don't think he's been the same player since they had all that shit go down with Cody's son. I think he
I
has just
really.
been super jaded since then.
So here's my question for you. You mentioned that Bang is good. What has Bang done since he came to North America that tells you this is a even to say top half AD carry in the league?
He
To
was
me,
still.
there's nothing.
I mean, I was looking
There's
at the
nothing that tells
stats.
me he's an elite talent at the AD carry position in the current LCS.
You're not okay. You're not. Listen, you're not wrong, but I don't know that that's his fault. When you're support as to be a
Would
good
you
AD
rather
carry.
have
Okay,
Bang or Arrow?
probably Bang still, dude.
No way.
Dude, I am
No.
not. I listen. I am not that high on Arrow. I think Arrow is. I think his ceiling will always be maybe the fourth or fifth best AD carry in the
I,
LCS. I think Bang
so
has higher potential. He hasn't been
so
playing
Arrow is
like it, but
a former MVP.
I
Keep that
know.
in mind.
I know.
I feel like plays with one of the worst supports in the league.
Well, that is.
And he's
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
true.
still a dominant player. If you go look at damage percentages, KDAs, kill part, like Arrow is still all the way up there,
I guess I'm letting
and
my
he plays.
biases play into this.
and,
You're
and that's
not
what I'm trying to
wrong.
say, right? You're saying, I know you're thinking that Afromu and Bang is a big reason why Bang hasn't shown through yet, right? But good 80 carries find a way. Good 80 carries will figure it out. Double Lift looked awesome with Matt as his support when he came to Team Liquid to save them from relegation. So good 80 carries will find a way to look good with bad supports.
You're right. I mean, okay, yeah, you've my argument is pretty null at this point because I always forget how bad Big is. I always just forget.
It's like why I can't. Sometimes you're like that guy is still in the league. I don't.
Dude,
I don't understand.
there's two. FlyQuest has two good supports. Just take one. Just take one. Like,
I
oh
mean,
god.
there's probably stuff behind the scenes we just don't know
Well,
about,
I mean,
but or
optics.
you know what, I could be vastly underrating him as well. I just when I do my tier list of supports in the LCS, Big is at the he's at the bottom tier.
Oh,
I just don't
absolutely.
think he's yeah.
He's
So
not good, and I think that I think it'll probably stay that way. But we'll see. I mean, I think they are bringing back scouting grounds, and if with Immortals coming back, which I'm hyped about, I'm very hyped for them to own that team. I think that they're going to be looking for a support. I would. I don't know. I'm a big believer in scouting grounds. By the way, the more you get
I
to
love
know me,
scouting grounds.
I am a huge believer that will make the LCS better before, and I think that is what's making the LCS better.
Well,
That's why Cloud Nine's good. So
I think scouting grounds is interesting, and I very much enjoy scouting grounds. I wrote an article about how awesome scouting grounds is and how
mhm,
important it is for the future of the LCS. And part of that's like a traditional sports background, right, where we
same.
have drafts and things like that. And yeah, I'm a big fan of the scouting grounds. I mean, Kuro's not even the first, or Kuma's not even the first person to get up there. I mean, Vulcan,
Vulcans have been from there. Blabber's been from there. Zazel
right?
kind of.
Wiggly
Wiggly.
was, I mean, so no, he wasn't. He was on the desk for scouting grounds.
Yeah.
That's what he was. I'm like, I remember Wiggly at the scouting grounds. He was on the desk for them. But I mean, there's multiple names of people who are either in academy now or have made their debuts in the LCS who came
hmm
from scouting grounds.
And it's been huge. And I think once the season wraps up and Scouting Grounds goes out, I think we're gonna have a big old Scouting Grounds party because I think they're bringing the draft back. I'm trying to get Chris to tell me, not you, Chris, but Chris Greeley. Um, so real quickly, we'll do our other risers and fallers. I don't think we'll need as well. We might need as much debate on it. I don't know, but for me,
Fake God was a scouting ground.
oh yeah, he was. Yeah, I do remember that.
Fake God,
Vulcan,
Soligo.
Soligo.
Soligo, yeah, it was a scouting ground. Let's see. I'm sorry, I'm cheating when looking this up, by the
Yeah,
way.
you're good.
But
I did a
it
piece
was
on all the people who had come from it when I did a piece on Blabber before Worlds last year, actually, and I was like
Blab.
this thing works, dude. I
A
think
Blaze Olive is.
needs
I
to
could
play.
be. Yeah, I mean, he could be the next one that you're like, oh, somebody takes a run at him as being their next mid laner. I mean, going back to your point about 100 Thieves, what do you have to lose at this point, right?
Well, they got
There's.
enough money. Thare one of the only
Right,
LCS teams that are making a bunch of money, according to most people, because you know, because they're gods at it. Yeah. Then my last riser, real quickly, is gonna be Echo. Yeah, or excuse me, FlyQuest. We talked about it already. Santorin's looking better. This team is going to be better. I think Pobelter and Wild Turtle were just playing bad at the same time. That's tough for them. That's a team that you cannot have that happen. And I think Santorin was trying to do too much. Now he's come back in. I think adding Wadid brought a lot to this team, actually. I really liked what I saw out of him, and I'm really glad. Like, when they signed him, I was like, this is going to work. Like, this is just, for some reason, I feel like this is going to work. And he didn't die. He didn't steal any kills. All he did was get assists and keep Wild Turtle alive and played well with his aggressiveness. I think, and it's not to say that JJ's bad. I think JJ's actually pretty good. I just think Woodede fits the Wild Turtle needs a little bit more. So that was my last one, and then my faller is sadly going to be TSM right now. I love them, I do, but they cannot just choose Acadian, in my opinion. They just can't. I know you and I talked about it a little bit before this, but you cannot just choose Acadian. I actually think I would rather them flip on back and forth and use Acadian for games that they feel like they need to go more aggressive um, than to just not use Greg, because whether people like it or not, Greg's record on stage is outstanding. From last year to this year, I actually have an article that's just been sitting there for like 6 months because he's been out, and I haven't been able to like make a good argument for him yet. But like he has to play when that team is substantially better because I think he fits their style perfectly. Like their carries come in their top lane, their AD carry in their mid lane, like they're supposed to, and Greg just gives them that stable foundation that they need and can be that guy that can win a smite battle, right? Whereas Acadian loses smite battles regularly and can also get too aggressive, which I think can hurt the team. So I'm gonna throw it over to you on those two now.
my riser and actually I was gonna pick the same ones. TSM is the faller and FlyQuest is the riser.
Mm-hmm.
Um, TSM once again, I thought they were downward trending heading into Rift Rivals. Didn't look good at Rift Rivals. Did not look good coming out of Rift Rivals. Yeah, they picked up a victory over Clutch. Not impressed. The victory against CLG or the loss against CLG, I think showed that CLG was clearly the better team right now. I get it; it's just one game. It can go a lot of different ways. But if you put me in a best of 5 against CLG, I'll take CLG 3-1. Right? Like I just don't think TSM is trending in the right direction. They have some issues that they need to figure out. And then as a riser, FlyQuest. I talked about this a little bit ahead of time that it's. I don't think they're going to be held down forever. I think they're going to make a run at that last spot.
Yep.
And I think you'll definitely see them in the playoffs by the time the dust is settled. I think they'll be there.
I think so too, but it's going to be interesting to see who they lock out, who they knock out. So we'll get to
Right.
that here in a couple minutes too. But who's your upset? Who's your lock this week? We've talked about these teams. They've got every week's important from here on out. I think for everything. So and for every team, since Liquid has lost as many games as they had already early on. So who's your lock? Who's your upset?
So my upset of the week, and the standings are very, very close. So it's kind of hard to, do like, wow, this is a crazy upset. But my upset for the week is going to be FlyQuest over Golden Guardians.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
I think that FlyQuest is definitely, especially with like you talked about, Wadid entering the fray. Um, I think that's going to be a victory for FlyQuest. Golden Guardians is such a wild card on a weekly basis, right? Like, I never know what to expect from them. Some games they look really good. Some games they'll pull out a draft, and I'm like, wow, that's exciting and makes sense. But then, it is what it is. So I think FlyQuest will kind of continue their run. I think they'll make it 3 in a row and pick up a victory over Golden Guardians on Saturday.
Awesome, awesome. And then who's your lock?
My lock of the week is going to be Optic Gaming over Clutch. Not, I could have went with other ones that probably seemed more, an easier pick for it. But I really think, once again, Optic has been pretty solid. Um, they're not the A team, but they're a B tier team. And I think Clutch is just spiraling a bit. They're going to be having a new coach for this week on the stage. Who knows what they may make. Honestly, they may make roster changes before this week even happens here too. I would not be surprised to see that happen.
Well,
um
this will be the first decision by Dignitas and not by Clutch, right? For
i
anything
think
that's
it's
going on.
I think it's still under the Clutch kind of management up
Is
until
it?
the official transfer
Because I
happens.
think because they were Dignitas was already posting on Twitter and stuff about the Clutch players.
I mean, they would want to connect themselves with it, but I don't know. I'm not 100% sure.
I
I'm
feel
not
like this
100%
would be a
sure.
decision that either way. I feel like they have to they're gonna own the team, right? So they're gonna want
Right.
at least to have a say. So I would be shocked if they were like, yeah, like go make all these roster decisions, go make all this stuff
Right.
after the deal is done. Like I know the announcement hasn't happened, but I literally tweeted out super excited to see Dignitas and Immortals back in the LCS, and Dignitas liked and retweeted it. So I
Right.
I mean, it's a done deal at this point. I remember talking when I saw you last in St. Louis. Like I remember talking to
Yep.
Jacob Wolf about it, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, this deal's done." Like I don't know why they're taking so long. Maybe it's semantics at this point, but
And branding and all that type of stuff, right?
well,
Like,
dude, I like the new Dignitas branding. Actually, I'm pretty pumped. I think the owl looks pretty cool.
I'm
But
excited to see Immortals again. Actually,
me
I was a
too.
fan of the Immortals brand. I have my Immortals jersey downstairs
Oh,
even.
nice.
Because I was a fan of that, and then I was very saddened when they left. But now, to be fair, I'm kind of sad that Optic Gaming is going away because this has kind of been growing on me a bit.
I could tell,
And
dude. You're sipping that
uh,
optic Kool-Aid.
oh yeah, yeah.
As they
So
deserve. I mean, as they deserve. It's fun to see a team succeed, right? Like from being the garbage they were for the first year and a half in the LCS. I mean, they were rough. And I think that that's why it's good. I mean, I'm intrigued by your locking in of them because I was this close to picking them as an upset by 100 Thieves actually, but
okay.
my upset, and it kills me, but I just know this is a game they're gonna lose. Is Clutch and over TSM. That is the classic TSM. Nobody knows what the hell's going on with Clutch. TSM overthinks it. Zix has a terrible draft. Bjerg tries to carry. Sven forgets how to play the game. Broken Blade feeds because he does that sometimes, and they lose. I think that it is just the perfect setup. And if it doesn't happen, then TSM are just going to freaking stomp all over their faces. I mean, there is no middle ground. This isn't going to be a close game. It is either TSM are going to just get absolutely walloped because they forget how to play League of Legends and Zix has another bad draft, or they go in and crush it. So they're my upset. Clutch beating TSM. My my lock for the week is actually going to end up being CLG over Golden Guardians. Um, I think Golden Guardians, like you said, are a little bit weird right now. Nobody can really figure out what the hell's going on with them. And I think that CLG played a really good week last week, and I think they're going to want to continue that momentum. And as long as they don't lose, it's almost like a catch-22 here. As long as they don't get absolutely rolled by Team Liquid and lose their confidence, I think they go in and they just take Golden Guardians to the cleaners.
I like both of those. It's funny that, well, in a way we can win all four of them. We
Yeah.
can, uh, that second game between, and not to skip too far ahead,
You're
but
good.
that game between CLG and TSM and TL will be a good one to watch.
Oh,
Definitely
it's going to be
set
insane.
your clocks for that one. That'll be a test of really, has CLG arrived, or are they still a step behind?
Well, and they've just got to play that game well. I don't even think they need to win it, personally. For me, it's more of they need to show up and they need to play well. And if they lose barely, that's fine. Or if they lose after like 25 minutes, they just get rolled because we've seen that happen. Like, I forget. I think it was Splice and G2 in the first game of the LEC this split. Like they were really close, and then 25 minutes hit, and G2 remembered, oh yeah, we're really good, and then they just rolled them. So if that happens, I'm still gonna be okay with CLG because I think that they showed that they can stay with it. I mean, if they end up winning again against Team Liquid, or wait, they beat Team Liquid, right, at one point, or am I forgetting this?
I think you might be correct. I could be wrong though.
Let me check here. Sorry, guys.
Team
Did not.
Liquid's lost to Echo Fox, Cloud9, and who?
They have one more. I think it's CLG. I want to
Yeah, it
say
was CLG.
it
You're
was
right.
CLG.
Yep.
Okay, I thought so. So like, if they 2-0 Liquid, that actually puts Liquid at a huge, huge like area of problem right there because they lose that tiebreaker between them, and not that it'll matter for like actual playoffs, but like seeding wise and stuff, that could really really mess with them. So that's a big game for CLG to come out, and again, my lock isn't for that game because I don't think there's any way you could lock CLG in for that game. That would be like just
Mm-mm.
dumb. But
I don't think you can like, but you can't like Team Liquid either.
oh no,
It
not at
really is
all.
a toss up with who it might be.
So yeah, so those are my upsets and locks. Now we're gonna spend the last 15 minutes of this show going over our playoff predictor. We're just getting right back into it. We're almost halfway through the LCS split, and almost everybody outside of maybe Echo Fox and 100 Thieves have a chance at playoffs still. With six going, it kind of makes it a little bit easier to predict. But we're gonna just go and we're gonna choose who we have locked in. I think we can all agree, or the two of us can agree that TL will make it, C9 will make it, and TSM will probably make it still, even with whatever they do. So I think it comes down to those last three spots. Um,
So
do we want to discuss
how
the
do you
top
want
three
to?
or not?
Yeah, I mean, so the way I think we did it last week was we ranked the top six that we had.
Okay, okay.
And we can start at the top or the bottom, whichever way you want to go.
Let's just get the top out of the way because I think our top are pretty similar. So, I mean,
I have Team
yeah,
Liquid number one.
yep,
I'm assuming you do as well. I think they lost to Cloud9, but I think they're still the best team. I would take Team Liquid over any other team in a best of five.
yep.
They may lose a game or two, but I think overall they're just the strongest, most experienced roster. So
Agreed.
they're my number one team.
I agree. I don't really
Number
have too much to
two,
add there.
you have.
Number two, I have Cloud9.
I agree. I
Yeah,
think Cloud9 still the second best team out there. Um, really no. Yeah, it's close with some of the other teams that are out
hmm
there, right? But I still don't think they're better than Team Liquid, and I don't think anybody can say that they're better than Cloud9 at this point. Still,
no.
they have the history on their side. They have they have experience.
And
Um,
they haven't even had Licorice. Like he's been injured for a while. It sounds like so,
right,
which would explain. And he's still top three, top laner in the LCS, like while being hurt. So, I
right.
mean, they'll lose some games. There's no doubt they're gonna lose a couple games over the next couple weeks because I think they're gonna have to keep starting Kumo. I think they want to get Licorice right for playoffs and for Worlds. So, I think they'll just kind of let Kumo go, and he seems to be good enough. So I don't see any reason why they wouldn't be the second best team. Um, Now I think this is probably where we will differ. I'm gonna take a stab for yours, and I'm gonna say you're gonna say CLG is your number three.
CLG is my number 3 team right now.
Okay.
I don't see the victory over TSM was a big victory for me.
Mm-hmm.
It, it was, like I said, it was a statement victory. To me, it says that Cloud9 really has grown up a lot over the past split. And I think right now that they're they're in that upper tier of teams right now. So I'm going to put CLG as my number 3 team. Um, that's a volatile ranking in the fact that, you know what, they could get clobbered this week, and that could be,
The end of
you know,
everything for
subject to
them.
change, right? But that's who I have right now as my third best team, and a part of that also is nobody below them has really impressed me. Right? I mean, out of this the other teams that are out there, there's nobody else that I'm like, man, I think they've convinced me that they're a better team than CLG is right now.
I think that's fair, and I'm this close to agreeing with you, except for the fact that you got to look at TSM's draft as to why they lost to CLG, in my opinion. They're playing a comp that they've never played before. There's no way they'd been practicing for more than a week. I don't think they took that game seriously. I know that's going to sound really shitty, and I don't want to discredit CLG because they did play that very well. But if you're going to tell me that Broken Blades Kennen is very good, it's not. Acadian's Jarvan's probably solid, but you put Bjerg on Cassiopeia, like why? Like I get the Corki matchup there, but there were a lot of better picks for them to have had at that point. And then Sven playing Yasuo and Smoothie playing Gragas. I think they wanted to test it out, and they wanted to test it against an opponent that's good, but not like they wouldn't have never pulled this out against CLG. They like you can even tell even in their game against 100 Thieves, they picked a very standard TSM type draft. They gave Acadian the Sejuani. They gave Bjerg the Corki so that he could do what Bjerg does. They gave Sven the really nice shield of Smoothie, and Sven was able to just do his thing. So I think that had TSM played a different draft, I think that game's either a lot closer or TSM wins that game, if I'm being honest.
So,
And
so question for you: if they played a best of 5 right now,
mm-hmm,
you got TSM?
100%.
Really? I don't see it.
100% because
I just
here's the thing is even if let's say Acadian shits the bed, right? Like let's just say game 1 Acadian looks like trash, you still have Greg. And that is truly where their team relies. And it comes down to drafting too. Like I think that Zix and TSM play better, and not just that, but like CLG doesn't have a Bjerg where they have a player that will win them a game solely based on his ability, even if the team isn't doing well. If CLG struggles at all, they literally will lose that game no matter what. If TSM struggle, Bjerg can just turn it on. You give him an Akali, he could be non-existent for the first 20 minutes of the game and then win it at the end, right? Like we've seen him do that, and I think that that is a very big difference between CLG and TSM right now. And honestly, even TSM and every other team under them, like Bjerg is that kind of a factor. He's almost like as I know people are probably going to hate me for this, but he's almost like a LeBron James for basketball, where the rest of the team can have a bad game, but Bjerg can literally carry them to victory by himself, and I don't think CLG have that kind of a talent. I would take TSM in a heartbeat over them, honestly. And
okay. Okay. We will see. We will see how, and I think we will see. Like I think that we talked about this a little bit earlier, but I think you might get CLG versus TSM at some point in the playoffs, whether it's
third place game or potentially even finals. Doubt it, but potentially.
semifinal. It could even be semifinals though too, depending on how seeding turns out. So
Well, tell me this much: do you really think that TSM would not have been either a lot closer or well above what they produced had Sven and Smoothie not played Yasuo Gragas? Had they played a standard comp of any type, that one that we've even seen them play before, even if it's not standard? Because I think that is, to me, that is a huge indicator. Like you don't pull out a comp like that unless if you are ready to lose a game at that point because they haven't played it yet. And if it works, it works.
Here's the only thing that like kind of gives me pause, and we can talk about how things don't matter and they're just little petty things, right? Like that, right? But knowing your opponent hasn't beat you in 1100 days matters to organizations,
But
and I
TSM
know it
even said it
matters to
didn't matter to
Reggie.
them.
I know it matters to
Dude, they
Reggie.
don't give a
You
shit what Reggie thinks anymore. You know that. Dude, have you watched TSM Legends, dude? Reggie comes in and tries to get them all hyped up, and they don't care. They just don't. He's the owner. He's there. He's obnoxious at times for them. I like him, but, like, dude, they don't
I
care.
mean, you saw Reggie betting at the LCS finals, right? Like with Steve, I'm gonna bet what was it, 100K or something like that? They
Yeah, but
bet.
dude, that's Reggie, dude. Dude.
I,
Reggie is out of his mind sometimes, man. There's no way, dude. If he truly is that upset about that game, he needs to get over it because they tried a strategy, it didn't work. They learned a lot. Like you said, you learn a lot more from losing than winning. And I think Sven and Smoothie, if they ever try to pull that out again, I bet you it's way more polished than that was. Because dude, they literally lost them the game.
it did feel like something in the draft went wrong too. Like I don't
Probably.
know if that was the intention. I know they did like a hard pivot halfway through the draft, right?
I'm just
it is what it is.
listen. I'm
But
just saying that I think that game is as much of a fluke as anything that you're going to see out of TSM right now. And I know that maybe even in a straight up matchup, CLG might have still won that game. But like, if you seriously look at that draft and tell me that TSM was actually like there with their best, I can't honestly say that I would agree with that even in the slightest because I've never seen Sven even on his streams play Yasuo
right.
like ever.
Well, I to go along with your ranking of TSM 3, I have TSM 4.
Fair enough.
So close. I think from if I had to guess who your fourth team is, I could probably guess it. But like I think TSM to me just has not. I don't know. Maybe I have too high of expectations for them, right? They've been so successful domestically for so long. You have the big names on your roster. Like you said, Bjergsen's like the LeBron James of, everybody knows Bjergsen's name. Everybody wants to play with Bjergsen. Like, he's this godly figure in LCS history. But I'm always left wanting more. I am never impressed with them, at least in the last few weeks, right? Even in the games they win,
Oh
I'm
yeah.
like, there's no point where I'm like, you know what? That's the TSM I've been looking for. That's what I wanted to see. This is what I know they can be. And there's still a few weeks left, and you could say, oh, playoff TSM will come through and they'll shoot to the finals, and that might be true. That might be true, but
Well,
at this point, I just they have not done anything to suggest to me that they are a top tier team in the LCS right now.
and here's where, and I think you and I could probably do a 2 hour talk show on this because I think that when it comes down to it, like TSM's been trying a lot of different things that other teams don't. Like they were one of the first teams to bring out Yumi, right? Like they've messed around with what they use Broken Blade on. Like they don't use like there's no standard comp right now for TSM, right? Like if you go back and look at their games, what's Bjerg gonna play? What's Broken Blade gonna play? Like the only predictable person is kind of Sven, and even at that point, like I mean, he can bring out the Sivir, he can bring out the Ezreal, he can bring out the Ashe, like he can bring out just about anything. And I think that this team, more than any team, actually takes a lot of time during the beginning parts of a season. Because, like, let's talk about last split, right? Like, this was the same conversation you and I probably would have been having last split 4 weeks in, right? And then when week 5, week 6 hit, and they start
Yeah.
hitting their stride, right? So, like, I think TSM, more than any other team right now, except for maybe G2 and TL, kind of screw around at the beginning and try things and try to see if there's something that works. Like now we know like TSM, Yumi, Ezreal, that like that works for them, right? So like you'll see them pull it out, and they'll pull out strategies that you haven't seen in ages, right? Like they'll pull out if they need a game, dude. They're gonna pull out a zillion comp, like they will. And
It's just I think last year, I get the relationship between them finding their stride in the middle of last year towards the end, but I also think that was largely or a large part of that was due to Broken Blade's emergence. And kind of, he came in as a rookie. He did not look anything spectacular in the first few weeks. And then he really turned it on, in addition to some meta changes that helped them out as the season went
And
on.
so did
And
Acadian.
that's kind of, to me, not to go too far ahead, right? But what the meta is at the end of the season, I think will really, and the team that I think this hits the hardest to bag it up a little bit is Team Liquid. Team Liquid is a team where if the meta is people are playing Akali in the top lane, this is terrible for them, right? Like that's not what they want to see. And they got to the World Championships last year, and I think right before the World Championships, it shifted in a way that really hurt them.
Yeah.
And the world champions before that, you looked at the North American teams who get there, and all of a sudden it's Ardent Sensor supports who are dominating. And that was not what NA had came to do. Like, this is not.
Yeah, they're too I think NA is too focused on what they just see in front of them, and they're too reluctant to not only adapt but try to create their own strategy, right? Like, which is something we've been hearing a lot. And I think that this top four, right? So, like, I know we're technically off of base where we were trying to go, but I still think this is an important conversation because, in all reality, I think you'd agree these top four are the only ones that really matter right now. I mean, I'm sorry to everybody else, but these are the top four teams, and these are at least three of the ones that'll be going to Worlds for us, right?
Right.
And so when it comes down to it, I think you're right, but I think that this is where C9 last year surprised me, is their adaptability, and you saw it
Right.
throughout the year, and I think that this is where TSM are trying to go this year. Because we're still seeing it from Cloud9. They'll still bring out weird comps that we don't expect. TL does not. CLG definitely doesn't. They have to have their style, right? And I think that that's where the difference between these four teams is going to really end up stacking up. Is who can
We will
adapt, like you
see.
said.
Right. I agree. Like, if I have to pick, which three teams are going to Worlds, like whether it be points or winning,
Play-ins or yeah.
right, right. Like, I think it's going to be some combination of the three, right?
It
You
has
know,
to be. I mean, even with CLG playing as well as they are, they're going to have to win the LCS to basically make it at this point.
the
So,
the two teams that make finals, in my opinion, are both going. One of them will win on points, whether it's because I I foresee it being some combination of Liquid, C9, and TSM.
well,
Um,
but that's where that's interesting, and we can go a little over. That's okay. I mean, I think that's where it's interesting for me as to your argument for CLG, because TSM's likely going to be that number 3 seed, right? And there's going to be that play-in. There's going to be that play-in, right? And CLG
right.
will probably be the one that makes it up to that point where they end up having to play TSM. And even right now, you're almost convincing yourself that TSM's going to be that team that beats them in a best of 5.
In TSM, here's what I say: playoff TSM is a different animal, for one,
Mm.
because experience is a huge, huge factor when it comes to the playoffs, and TSM's loaded with it. You have
But are they?
Sven. Oh yeah, Bjergsen, Sven.
And
You
Smoothie, but that's it.
Smooth. But I mean, look at the other teams out there, though.
Cloud9's as strong as ever for it.
I
TL
mean,
obviously, but
but
then
if you looked at, I mean, Sneaky's got a lot of experience, and Sven Skaren's got a lot of experience, right? But
and C9
CLG
went
has
to
none.
semifinals of Worlds, and CLG
Yeah,
has Stix who's got some. I mean, he's
I
really
think
about it, but
this is an interesting question. Which team has the most playoff games amongst their players?
I would
It's not.
have to bet you it's Liquid. It's
Oh,
gotta
the
be.
Team Liquid I think is the number one. They have world champions, and they have, like,
Well,
Jensen and Double Lift and Xmithy, and
then it'd
I
probably
mean,
be TSM, and then probably Clutch actually, because Hooney and Lyra have a lot, even though
but
they've always been the
Hooney,
16.
burned out when he was on Immortals. They stunk when it came to playoffs time.
Well,
They
no,
got
I know, but
bounced
I'm just saying
early,
amount of games though. He's got a ton
right?
because he did it with Echo Fox and Immortals, and he's done it. He hasn't done it with Clutch yet, but
No, but I'm talking about. I mean, let's just talk like playoffs and international events.
Oh, well then, yeah. I mean, it has to be TL, TSM, and then C9. I don't think there's even anybody who comes in the same ballpark because Bang has his experience, Afremu has
What
his.
about
Maybe someday, actually, 100 Thieves would have a lot because Amazing too, and Ryu.
Amazing and Afro Moo
Yeah, they
and
could.
Bang? Bang's been to how many world championships?
Too many. Joking.
Yeah. Well, FlyQuest actually has 3 players who have quite a bit of experience as
Wadid.
well.
Wadid has some. Santorin has a little bit.
Hobelter and Wild
Hobelter,
Turtle
Wild
both.
Turtle, yeah. Viper's really the only one. This would be a really good. We should dive into that another time because I think this would be a really good one. Let's go under our 5 and 6 real quick though because I think this is where we
Okay.
really differ. I think you went first on the last one, right?
Yes. Well, I went one. I don't know. I don't know where we're at. I'll give you my 5.
Okay.
My 5 is Opti Gaming.
Okay.
I think out of they're the best of the rest. Like I just feel like they're the most steady of the teams. I also think that from a talent standpoint, they have between Crown, Meteos, and Arrow. I think they have a solid core where they can make noise. Um,
Oh, that's tough for
so
me. Because you got to remember, Big and Dokla are like the worst at their respective positions.
Dokla hasn't been that bad.
Dude, Dokla is it should not even be playing. I'm sorry. He should not even be
I
playing.
feel like he gets held by past performances.
But he hasn't even been that good this year. He has been how's this? He has been stable. Stable would be the best way to put it for me. From what I have seen of him. He hasn't been good. He has his games occasionally. I don't think he's LCS talent.
I really think Dokla is underrated. I don't think he's a excellent top laner, but I think he's
Who would you put
maybe
over? Who would you put under
who would you
him?
let's look at
Who would you
I'm
put
gonna
under
I'm
him?
gonna
Let's just go by this. You're not going to put Impact. You're not going to put Licorice. You probably wouldn't even put Kumo. But, maybe. You're not going to put Ruin at this point.
I'll put Fake God below him.
Well, that doesn't count because it's someday should be there, right? You're not going to put Hooney. You're not going to put Hanser. You're not going to put Broken Blade. You're not going to put Viper. And you're not going to put Solo. Dokla's the worst. He has to be. You cannot put... Dude, Solo's been the only reason Echo Fox have even won games, dude. He's better. He is better. But he is still the 10th best. Maybe even the 11th best top laner in the LCS right now.
Yeah, okay, I'll give you this one. I will give you this one that Dokla. There are very few people I would take, but I just don't think he's that bad.
But can you name one? Just name me one that you would legitimately, that is a real starter. I'll take Kumo out of it.
Fake God.
You gotta take Fake God too. You have to. That's not even fair. Someday we know is the real starter for that team. But even still, okay, that's fine. You can say that he's better than Fake God, but that still puts him at 10 because Sumday's still better than him.
Yeah, but Fake God's played more games than Someday now.
Yeah, I know, but still.
Who's the real starter?
Well, we all know who the real starter is. Listen, Dokla is better. He is not a liability anymore, but he's not good. He's still not very good. If that team had Someday, dude, I would pick them to probably be my 4th or 3rd best team. Like, if they went out and they got Someday and they got JJ, dude, that team is that much better. Because Crown is clearly as good, probably better than he was last year. Meteos is definitely better.
Here's an interesting statistic for you. Out of your starting top laners, which one do you think has the worst gold differential at 10?
I know it's not Hanser. He had one of the best. I would probably guess either Solo or Viper. That would be my guess.
Final answers?
Yeah.
It is Broken Blade.
I had a feeling you were going to say that. But I don't know that that's necessarily his fault. I just don't know that's his fault.
When you're behind Fake God, Dokla, solo, like,
But who would you rather have on your team?
I, but here's the thing, right? You also have to take into account like fake for especially for Fake
But that's a
God and
that's
if
Acadian's
it for
fault too, dude. Acadian
if
never
for
goes
Fake
up
God
there,
and
and he
Solo
always
though,
puts it
their
behind.
teams are like
Dude,
those are losing
how many
teams.
times has Acadian literally given the first kill over of the game to top lane? It is
I think you're being
almost every game.
Broken Blade has not been that impressive.
He's not been great, but he's still better than that, and you know that. Dude, would you rather have Dokla or
We'll
Broken
see.
Blade on your team? Honestly. Like, not even looking at
I would
statistically.
take I would take Broken Blade because I value players who have carry potential in the top lane.
Yeah.
Like
He's a much better player.
I highly value it because of the possibility for meta shifts, and I want a player who can play a carry in the top lane.
I agree.
I would rather have a player if you said you get to pick a player who's an A at one and a B at the other between being a carry and a tank, right? I would take a player who's an A at a carry and a B at a tank over player who's an A at a tank and a B at a carry.
Yeah, but like again, let's real quickly dive into this because where Broken Blade might just be a second half player, dude.
He might be.
And
He might be.
let's be real. Like you again, like Acadian has always screwed him over, even during Spring Split. Like when they lost games, it was because Acadian would literally feed the top laner. Like and they've picked him into so many losing matchups. Like that Kennen pick into the Aatrox, like I'm sorry, but it just doesn't do anything for me.
I'm interested. I'm wondering if he'll rotate onto the Yasuo at some point here.
I think that would make a lot of sense.
Or like if you want, and their composition would have worked with it too. You could have ran because you already have the Jarvan for. I don't see why you wouldn't. If you want to force these Yasuo compositions, then go run Yasuo on Broken Blade. I don't know.
Well,
That works for me.
and let's talk real quick about gold difference per 10. Who do you think who do you think was more Okay, so Dokla was last, by the way, by a
Yep.
large margin. He was last by 50 gold. To Viper. Then
I Broken Blade.
this in Spring Split? Yeah. Guess who else was
Oh,
behind?
in spring
Yeah.
split. Okay,
Yeah,
okay,
but
okay.
guess who else was behind him?
But Optic was terrible in
But
the spring split too.
guess who else was behind him?
Impact.
Impact.
Yep.
And it's not because
See?
Impact's a bad player. It's because they did not worry about getting him ahead. Broken Blade's
Well,
value comes at the end of the game. You see it every game. How many times has he outflanked somebody or soaked up enough damage for Bjork to just live, right? Like or been the CC that they needed him to be, right? Like that's where they're playing right now. And that's where I think like goal differential per 10 like for me like it matters, but at the same time like how much does it matter, right? Like
but I also think though, like if you look, I think the Impact comparison is a false comparison because Impact was on different types of champions in the spring
no,
split than Broken Blades. Look at what Broken Blades been playing: Kennen, Aurelia, Jace, Camille, Nico, Jace. Kennen. Like Kennen and Jace are supposed to be lane dominant champions. Like you
I
pick
think
them for the laning.
he's a bad Kennen, man.
But
They
what
gotta
I'm
stop
saying
putting him on
is
that.
that's different than throwing Impact on Scion, right? Like Impact's not supposed to dominate his lane opponent on a Scion like you are supposed to play on Jace. Jace, I think, is his most played in the spring split. Is it? Let's see, or summer
Probably.
split. Yeah, I think his most played champion is Jace. He
Yeah, but
has
he's still having a
four.
way bigger impact than Dokla is, because if you can't just pick out one stat and be like, yeah, like dude, like
No, but
he's
what I'm
also
saying is
still one of
that's
the better kill participations. He has
it,
he's got the third most amount of kills, right? He's got the third most amount of deaths, but he's got the most assists. You know,
it,
his first blood rate is terrible because he pretty much has to give it up every time to whatever Acadian does. Like, I mean, I don't know. I like even his CS differential is better than Dokla's by almost 3 CS. Their average
If you're,
experience per that is about
I'm
the
not saying that
same.
Broken Blade is not a better player than Dokla, but what I'm saying is Broken Blade is underperformed.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, if you have 4 out of your 10 games on Jace, you should not be last in goal differential at 10.
But again, like you're playing it off of just a statistic. When you
I
watch,
I,
it
I
is
get
not
it.
his fault. Like there is
But
no doubt that he's actually played relatively well considering the deficits that he's been given. Every game, dude. I mean, they try to focus top lane at the beginning of the game, and you see, like, in their game against CLG, right, they talked about it was going to be vertical jungling, and then Acadian died twice in the jungle and the top lane, both atop, and then he had to shift and start vertical jungling down in the bot lane. Like, it's just, I think Dokla is. I think it comes down to you're arguing that Dokla's better. I will give you that.
I'm not.
But
Yeah, I think Dokla is a better player right now, but I don't think. Yeah. I think we're both saying the same things. I
I
think we
think so
both
too.
agree. Yeah.
I think so too.
So, but I have Optic Gaming as my 5, and my number 6. My number 6 team right now, I'm gonna put as FlyQuest.
Oh.
I think FlyQuest is a better team than any of the other ones right now. I get it, they're 3-7, but there's pretty much like 2 games separating them from the rest of the pack and the standings.
So
So
do you think they're going to be able to make the playoffs though? They got to go at least 8-10. So that means they have to go at least 5-3 for the rest of the split.
let's look at their remaining schedule here a second. I'll see.
Because
I'm gonna
I
pull
don't
up their
think
whole schedule.
they've played TSM. That's one of their wins. They've lost to
They
C9
have
and
all of the
TL.
big 4 still in their last. They have TSM, Cloud9, CLG, and Liquid.
They got to take
In
at least one of those. They have to, and then they've got to win the rest basically. Because
I got.
if they don't take one of those, then it's over. Because
Do they statistically have to go 8-10?
last split that's where it was. The 6th seed was 8-10. I think CLG was 8-10.
Because right now, Golden Guardians is the 6th seed at 5-5. 2-game difference. 2-game difference. And
But do you have confidence that that Golden Guardians won't win at least 3
all
more
you have to get
games?
is to all you have to get it to all you have to do is tie them.
I don't know, man.
Golden Guardians have those big 4 too.
Yeah,
They have
but
those same
they
4
only have
teams.
to go 3-5, not 5-3. So they can lose all 4 of
Yeah,
those
but
games and still make it.
FlyQuest plays Golden Guardians in the first Saturday. Saturday they play.
It's gonna
If
be a big
they
game.
win, now that's a 1-game difference. And yeah, I think forget the record, right? I think they're the 6th best team right now.
Well, again, I agree, but if we're doing playoff predictions,
I'm gonna, you know what? I'm gonna call my shot. I'm gonna say FlyQuest makes it in the 6th spot.
all right, here's my deal. I'm gonna go Optic at 5. I agree with you there. I think Optic Crown is amazing. Meteos has figured it out. Arrow is better than I remembered, so I will give you that one. Still think they have 2 of the weakest players at their respective lanes, and I think that could absolutely come back to bite them in the ass because I don't know how, I don't know why necessarily outside of them just not playing well, but I think teams need to exploit it more. First off. Secondly, I think it's going to have to go to Golden Guardians. Dude, they are way better than they're playing right now, and we know that. They're very streaky. They're a very streaky team. And if they get on a bit of a roll, it's over. They got the 5 or the 6 seed, and while I would agree with you talent-wise, FlyQuest is probably I would actually argue if we're just going talent-wise, we got our big 4, and then I would actually say Golden Guardians and FlyQuest. I think just because Dokla and Big are so bad, comparatively. Again, comparatively.
I want Golden Guardians to be good. Like
Everybody
I want
does.
Haunter to get the respect he deserves. I really like Froggen, right? Like I want Golden Guardians to be good.
Contracts is the problem, and
But
he's played
I don't know.
well at times. He had a really good beginning of this split so far, but I think Deftly's underrated. He's statistically actually like top 6 almost for the last at least 2 or 3 splits.
Right.
And I think it's unfortunate. I think Olay is better than people give him credit for too. I know that he's very, very good at Tom Kench. But I also they don't. The other problem is they don't pick him champions that are in the same sort of realm as a Tom Kench. Like you don't really see him playing a Braum anymore. You don't get to see him play as Alistar that he's really good at, right? Like I know they're not in the meta, but like I just think the meta is unfavorable to Ole. I think we actually that may not even be true either because actually when we saw him play Nautilus, he was pretty solid, right? Like I mean he's not like god tier like he is on Tom Kench, but like yeah, I think Golden Guardians have to be the 16 man. Because they're gonna pick it up. Like, dude, Froggen will quite, not literally, but like quite literally will murder somebody if they don't make playoffs. Like he just will. Like that dude is insane. I've never seen somebody. And the thing is, you know what's insane actually is how good statistically Hanser and him have been.
Oh, Haunter's been very underrated. Haunter's actually been a very good player.
He's been
Like
unreal, and
Haunter,
Froggen too. They both have lane advantages every single game. Every game.
it's yeah. I will agree. Contracts. What's sad is, man, when Contracts hit the scene, he was like, "This kid's a prodigy," right? Like they were like, "This guy is gonna be the next great North American player," and then it didn't happen.
He's
It
struggled. They need a new
so.
jungler, man. They do. It just comes down to he's just too inconsistent, and definitely can't be more than what he already is right now. He's
Would you
probably
take Dardoch or Contracts?
Dardoch in a heartbeat because he's figured his
Yeah,
stuff
even though
out.
he might cause problems with your
He
team.
won't anymore. I actually have weirdly enough I have an inside source that is friends with him, and funny enough like Optic until he left they were zoning him out for that stuff and he actually hadn't caused any problems. Like you've noticed since he's been an Optic, he's never been anything but a team player. Like he really hasn't. He's never complained once.
But he
He's
also hasn't been starting, so why is that?
because Meteos apparently like kind of went behind his back and made a deal with the coaches basically.
I don't know.
I'm not saying that that's like for sure, but there's a couple things I think that plays into this. I think Meteos might have done something, and I also think Meteos is better for the brand,
I think
and I think that's what it came down
Meteos
to. Because
is a
Meteos was
better.
he was the worst jungler in the LCS last split. Go look it up.
I think
Every
Meteos is a
statistic
better
category.
style fit for Optic than what Dardoch is. Dardoch wants in his
Yeah, okay,
prime.
I would agree with that. He's very aggressive.
He's yeah, well, and he commands resources,
Mm-hmm.
right? And you've already got going back to it. You've already got Crown and Arrow who both want resources, and they play characters that I mean, Crown can roam. He plays Rise, all these type of stuff, right? But Arrow has always been the carry, right? He's gonna pull out the Draven or the whatever, right? So,
Yeah,
but all
it's
right,
a
that's my 5 and my 6.
yeah, and mine are Optic and Golden Guardians. Again, and it's not based on talent necessarily for me. I still think the top six would be Liquid, C9, TSM, CLG, Golden Guardians, and FlyQuest. That would be my like talent wise. Optic right behind them, but I think if Optic, soon to be Immortals, get if they can re-sign Crown, right? Although I think he's on a 3-year deal. I don't remember. I
Yeah,
want to say he's on
it's
a
2 or 3 years. I don't
yeah.
think they need to resign him yet,
So if they can convince him not to retire, I guess would be the better thing. Which I don't think he will after how well he's
Mm-mm.
played. But
especially with how much he's getting paid. You have
oh dude,
unlimited.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. But so like if they can go get somebody for Dokla, or if Dokla can do a Wiggly type of improvement, right? And they get rid of Big, because I'm sorry, Big, but dude, you gotta go. It's gotta be done. If they can go get a good support, which there are plenty. I mean, there's one thing that the LCS Academy teams have, and that's some pretty good supports down there. I'm still surprised that Optic haven't picked any up, but I think if they can get that, I think Optic would actually be a top 2 or 3 team next year, without a doubt. Or I guess again, Immortals. And I think that we're gonna see that too, because I think Arrow and I do still think they need a backup for Meteos. I know he's played well, but dude, last split just was the last year for him up until this split was I thought he was going to retire, honestly,
oh
because he'd
yeah,
been
I
playing
didn't
so
expect him.
badly.
I mean, the Phoenix One thing, and yeah, like bouncing around from team to team. He was on 100 Thieves Academy. I was like, yeah. So
So yeah, but I think that's where we'll wrap it. We went a little long, but Chris and I don't really get to talk league as much as we should.
nope.
So This is good stuff. We really appreciate your guys' time. For those of you who have stuck around, Chris will definitely be back next week. I probably won't, but we will see. It'll really just depend on what Nick and I are feeling. But other than that, thanks for stopping by. And from our house to yours, this has been Watch House. Or, wow. This has been LCS Weekly. I'm so used to Watch House. This has been LCS Weekly, not Watch House. But
Right.
you should watch Watch House on Monday.